Well, good evening, 6 o'clock. Would like to call the meeting to order, and if I could get a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Armstrong, second by Holmes to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. If we could rise, please. Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we have public comment time. I'm going to change this microphone until we have somebody at the podium. There's nobody in our house tonight for public comment. We have several people online, so let's see. Internal. Whoops. Just a minute. There we go. There. So anybody online that has a public comment for us this evening? Okay.
They're asking about sound. I just told them.
Huh? Somebody
said
asking about sound?
Can they hear us? I don't know.
Let's see. Does anybody have sound? That came from Chris Griebert. Okay, that was Caitlin Holmes can hear. Chris, are you able to hear? If you're unable to hear, please message us in the chat box right now.
Jess can hear.
Okay. And I didn't hear from Chris, so I assume he can hear. Jesse's here to talk about that later on in the meeting. I assume you can hear Jesse.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Thank you. All right, no public comments. Then we will move on into the engineer's update, JD, and I'll move the camera to JD.
It's a big list, JD.
Good afternoon, I'm JD, the engineer. In spirit of the two-page agenda,
Yes.
I decided to put a two-page
I saw
engineer update together. And despite some technical difficulties, the email version was sent out to the board sometime today.
Yes.
But here's a paper copy.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Ma'am?
Thank you.
So we're hauling rock with a couple of tandems. And yesterday, probably today, we're hauling riprap to a site where there's a slide by a pipe with a couple of other tandems. Belly dumps are not running. Our blades are out on the roads. Probably not too many on the gravels anymore. It's getting pretty dry, but we have some grass to cut along the edges, and the operator should be on the dirts to get those shaped up. Pipe crew A, and you know, I have an A and a 2, or it's an A and a B and 1 and a 2, but it's, I guess the pipe crew with the new hoe is down working a slide on 240th. That's where the tandems are hauling the riprap. That's over on the eastern side of the county on X, just east of X on 240th. It's a long way from the road down to the stream that's crossing underneath it, or the draw that's underneath it. And we found some steel, some I-beams, and some sheet steel that we're gonna put a basically a retaining wall on the lower end of this box culvert. It's too short to see if we can't flatten the slope and provide a little more road width on the grade. Other pipe crew is down on 270th and G. We're gonna pipe down the vicinity of College Springs. They're gonna move up to a pipe near there on 230th next, and then we're gonna move that crew even further north. That's a second pipe crew. They're using the older hoe. So maybe I should phrase it, the new hoe crew and the old hydraulic hoe crew, as opposed to 1 and 2, because they're, and of course, this is, we've talked about this in the past, and we finally managed to get them started, and then I have another project come up of short suspense, and I got a contractor coming in next week, and so we diverted both the spray patcher crew and one of the pipe crews over to J52 West of Point, where we're milling in some bumps. Well, we're milling out the bumps. There was some asphalt patching done there in 2011 or so. Prior to my tenure here in 2013, we had done a chip seal on that road. And so there's a series of, there's numerous bumps along that 7.5 miles from Coyne to the Fremont County line. So we're gonna smooth that up later this month. The contract crew is gonna come in and do slurry leveling with a 1/4 inch material. So we're grinding about a 1/2 inch below the surface of the road. Have a mill we have, and then a broom and a couple guys in flaggers to keep people safe. And so we're gonna smooth up that piece of the road. And we've done that before on various other roads, including J20, J52 east of Coyne, down to 71. So we've done this before. It's running about $12,000, $13,000 a mile, and we'll get some improvement in the ride for that without the $150,000, $200,000 that a resurfacing lift would cost. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to be like a new asphalt pavement, but it will smooth it up. My rule of thumb is 80–85% of the bumps are going to be good. So it'll ride smooth. I mean, there's a better ride east of College Springs on J52 than west of Point. So with the staff I have, we have no mowers running at this time. And the crew with the new hoe, once they get done with this slide and the retaining wall part, they're gonna move on south into Buchanan. Township doing some pipes down there. There's one on B Avenue on 305th Street. It was called our attention to. And then there's pipes along the J55.
Is that the one I
One east of the bridge.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
And we have an object marker in there a couple days ago.
I saw that.
And the other pipe crew, as it works back north from I Avenue up toward J20, there's some north of J20 on the dirt. We're also gonna slip that crew over to the current closed bridge on G Avenue, where we bought a large pipe to replace that bridge. So that's in, it will be a month before we get there, but we're on the way there. Later in the week, we need to do a one call on some work at Rat Park, and then with some motor graders available, we intend to do some work on Rat Park later this week or next. I've had a request from the city of Friday bill to do some spray patching down there on the streets that they're responsible for. So when we get our stuff, the Mayday stuff of our system done, we'll sit down there and then send them a bill. Our guys are working 410s starting this week after the Memorial Day holiday, so we don't have to mess with that. And I am pleased to announce that although we talked about this last year, in 2020, Page County Secondary Road Crew won first place in Iowa, the better mousetrap competition, where we put together a snow fence roller with the stuff we had in about $20. They're finally going to come out of Ames, the Iowa State folks, the LTAP folks, and come out here to the hinterland and bring food. So, we're going to have a shindig at the shop, and of course have a little safety meeting to go along with that on heat, ways to mitigate heat implications for us. And so we're on that line. Is public health on the call tonight?
Yeah, Jess is here.
Are we, I guess I'm interested in know, given my shindig coming up next week, are we completely done with COVID measures? Can I get the crew together in my large shop and, maybe not hug and go do-si-do, but, have a meal around a spread, and sit down in our chairs, and there's room to spread out. Any comment, Jess?
Are you talking to
Can
me?
you hear me, JD?
Oh, sorry.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, JD, I think at this point, we've had a lot of people get vaccinated in the county. I say, as long as everybody's feeling okay, you guys should be fine.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a yes.
I'm good with it. What that matters.
There's probably enough pizza for extra food. Thank you. Thank you,
When's
Jess.
that gonna be, JD? So
17th.
The
The 17th, so we just need to kind of show up unannounced.
Well,
We've got to bring an auditor with us, but yeah, there'll be 4 extra mouths to feed.
maybe you need to bring dessert.
Oh,
Maybe you need to bring dessert,
Oh,
rhubarb stew or crunch or what,
so
I don't
that's
think I go
on
with pizza.
Thursday, the 17th
Yes.
at lunchtime.
So you're gonna have a safety meeting before that? or-
Probably after.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Jess.
In their carb coma, we're gonna sit down and listen to heat talk. I did have a chat with the auditor, and we have ordered the truck and equipment, body equipment for the replacement for the one that tipped over. And that'll be some months away. And unless things change, it could be 6 to 9 months or even longer than that before we see that truck back with us. So the shop, we have 42 back from Omaha, but 24 needs to go. Once again, it's an emissions issue. I think the superintendents went to see a belly dump for sale over in Marion County. They're gonna upgrade their fleet to 3-axle trailers, and they're getting rid of a tandem axle belly dump trailer. The price is pretty decent, so I'll talk to you more on that soon.
Okay.
So the belly dump's worth running right now because some issues with the truck tractors. If you turn to the second page, then the crew at the office is finishing up paperwork we're working on paperwork for the bridge on J20 that was open to traffic before Memorial Day. We're working on rock tickets, and I have an agenda item for the local road rock haul next. The plan for the resurfacing of M63, also known as Stanton Road, is continuing. We're going to replace the approaches. We got to mess with the guardrail, and we're going to have to, there's some odd guardrail arrangements or configurations down at Snake Creek, 190th and O Avenue. There's curved corner guardrail, and that you can't just throw a standard on them and expect to get that to work. So we were out looking at it today, figuring how we're gonna do that, how we're gonna build that. And I do have a rep from the asphalt industry coming in to help, to talk about some of the features on the various methods and techniques that we haven't, last time we paved was, I guess, 2018. That'll be 4 years in between. Last time we paved in construction season 22. We'll let this during the winter for next year's work. I have some numbers of cost and tonnage for the local road rock haul. Looks good to me. We, overran 130 some ton. It was 1.09 is what it should be, with about 1% overrun there.
So 1.09.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's like I didn't try to copy that right.
Okay.
And then I have some other topics just to throw them out there to start thinking about, particularly as we anticipate our road trip on the 30th of June. We have some closed bridges on dirt roads, and that's a challenge. The dirt road part, well, that's a characteristic of the road, but that don't mean they're local roads, and I can't spend, and the traffic counts are low, so that interferes with what kind of bridge money can be used for bridges on dirts. So, as I spoke about earlier on G Avenue, where we're going to take a wooden bridge out and replace it with a large pipe, we can do that in some scenarios, but not all. And we've closed, Page County has closed tens of bridges over the last 50 years. We don't have a bridge at every mile on the Tarkios or the Nottoway or the Nishnabotna. And I don't anticipate that changing, but what is our level of effort, our priority to the small wooden bridges on dirt roads? That's something that I need input from the Board of Supervisors on. There's also some roads out there that off and on we've talked about. The landowners, adjacent landowners, talked about closing roads, often in conjunction with bridges. There's a couple scenarios or a couple of locations out there where that's being discussed. Historically, we've purchased our signs from Iowa Prison Industries. They had an incident involving some injury of a correctional officer recently, and their sign shop was closed down. So we've gone somewhere else to buy signs, but we don't have a whole big batch of 45-mile-an-hour speed limit signs that we're going to place on J55, J53, except I do know where some are currently in place that I think could be removed, and that's along 190th Street and 230th Street. And as I understand it, those were placed when the DOT was doing work on Highway 2 because that pushed traffic off on those parallel routes. Well, that was done in the 90s, I think. Probably the people that are driving 190th Street or 230th Street are the regulars there and not the traffic that's been pushed off of 2. So I'll probably have a chat with the sheriff, and then someday I'll propose removing those speed limits, and then I have a place for those signs.
Can we raise that back to 55, or is it?
Well, if we take the speed limit away,
Statute.
it'll go back to statute.
So 55 day, 50 at night, right?
Correct. 55 during the day, 50 at night.
So we have no signs now on J55 or 53 indicating the new speed limit. So I know I had a call, somebody was pretty concerned that, and I let the sheriff know that they were buzzing on there
I
again.
was on it earlier today, and I met somebody going probably 60 mile an hour. It was a dust cloud and a half. I got way over.
So that was before the rain, or did they?
It was before the rain. It did rain right after that, so that probably helped.
Rain today?
It was a shower come through down there.
Down there, selection.
Tents and sham.
You did?
But, you know, driving that road, I'm just in my pickup, but get about 45, that's fast enough.
That's right. I mean, that's how I
I felt- I
drive
didn't feel
around
like I was-
Page County all the time.
That's why those road tours take all day.
Yeah, I didn't feel like I was creeping by any means.
Just another.
Well, can you talk to the sheriff, like put that pretty high on the list? I think until we have those signs out there, we won't have any room to
Right,
start
right, we
enforcing.
can't really do it much. And this is the, well, I have end of the month numbers from the auditor, end of May numbers, thank you. And so there's 1 month left. We're gonna be fine. We have enough budget to take care of our needs. However, not however, but additionally, there's $290,000 remaining in new equipment that I'm not gonna get spent this year because stuff takes too long to get it. We didn't start early enough, or we remembered what the board instructed to, slow down on equipment purchases until the latter part of the year. Well, I've overdone that part maybe. And, but I do intend to. So the money will move across, but the spending authority won't, so we'll need to amend next year's budget, FY22, to increase the new equipment category. At least I'm gonna
Start promoting that now.
Reminding us now. Yeah.
So here's some photographs of the work on J52 West of Court. There's a lot of bumps to grind there. They'll be busy for the next 4 or 5 days. And the contract crew will be in middle next week. I anticipate this work to be done. Well, this work will be done in 4 days. They're going to use a pilot car. They do 1 lane at a time. They're going to do half of it lengthwise on 1 lane, and then move to the other lane and do the other half, and then go down to the west end and do the same thing there. So this will be a 4-day operation. And there's some other spots, various spots around the county. They're in the middle on J52, like at the bridge, and there's east of Coin, we took out a bridge 8-9 years ago, and the asphalt patch through there is pretty rough, and then we've slurry leveled it once already, so we're going to do that again. See if we can smooth that up a bit. There's 3 or 4 spots east of Coin on J52 that we're going to slurry level also. So, questions for me? about the update.
On the grader, we're gonna rebuild. One thing was to make it eventually the backup grader, but I just wanna make sure it's
Spare, yes.
fair, but when it's rebuilt and you get it back, it's totally rebuilt, got that warranty for the first year, we're gonna be using hot and heavy then, right?
Right, it'll be a main machine.
All right, it needs to be a main machine for a
Yeah,
while.
well,
so-
it's gonna be a main machine.
Okay. How many years do you think you're guessing? I mean, he's got a 10-year deal, but 1 year everything warranty, probably at least 5 years or,
I guess 5 before before
Before it's
the warranty starts to
yeah.
taper down.
I just want to check, make sure it wasn't going straight to the spare. 'cause
No, no.
Use that warranty while it's
Yeah,
there.
it'd be one of the better machines in the fleet,
Yeah,
definitely.
should be tight and good, yeah.
Sure.
Okay, that's all I wondered about.
The pipe crews A and 2, or young and old, or however you did that. These are our crews, right? We don't have
Correct, this is
Matter
our
out
crew.
there doing it yet.
Both of our hydraulic hose are
Okay.
running and digging.
Yeah, the other guys haven't started yet, have they?
Have you heard
No.
from Matter on a projected
Haven't
start
heard.
time? Okay. And then, the other question on, M63, do we know, is Montgomery County going to do any work, or are we going just the Page County line and they're not gonna do any at this time, you know?
They're still a couple years behind. They're working further north on M63.
Okay,
But I don't think we're touching at the county line.
okay,
Now, it doesn't mean that, I mean, I guess I need to find out when their other project is, just because it doesn't touch, I mean, if it's 6-7 miles up the road.
right, we could save some money,
I
couldn't we?
mean, somebody can save some mobilization, they'll put a plant somewhere and feed both projects, or conceivably, theoretically could do that.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, I have a voucher. The local roads, the local road rock hall final voucher for the chairman to sign, so I need some motion to approve that. It's
And those are those numbers that were 1% on.
Yes.
So where's that other $2,800, $2,900 come from?
Out of, secondary road fund. And I have that.
Huh?
We have that.
Okay,
I'll make,
Check.
yes.
This is for you.
I'll make a
Sign once
motion
they approve
to approve signing the final voucher for the local road rock hall project, number L-CO73.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Armstrong, second by Holmes. Any other discussion? The amount is $269,833.26. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Day the 8th.
All day.
Okay. Do you need this back, or is the auditor need this?
I need this back.
Okay.
I'll send it. Well, they'll get a copy with the claim.
There you go, sir. All right, thank you, Jay.
I had the 3-day report from the auditor. Because I don't have it. As I recall, there's
Yes.
$1 million left in June. There's $1 million left in June, but I don't spend it all, so.
That's probably a really good plan. Don't want you to have to feel like Monty Brewster, where you have to spend all.
You know, it's good, $270,000.
It's like, yeah. Okay. All right, we are running behind. I apologize. JD normally doesn't have a 2-page report, but we have Jesse Stimson on the line. Jesse's requested to be on our agenda to discuss higher quality mic video system. Jesse, you're on.
Well, appreciate you guys having me on. I was hoping to be in there, but I'm a little bit under the weather, so I'm kind of grateful that we can get on Zoom here and do this. So can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yep.
In the past, having listened in a number of times, there has been issues in the past where if people are on the sidelines and not up at the podium and questions are asked to them and they answer, kind of like a couple weeks ago when Sheriff Palmer was up there, he was asked some questions and nobody could, I heard a few comments that nobody could hear what he was saying. And so I think it would be important to either make sure they're going to come up to the podium anytime they're asked questions, or just anybody that might be on the sidelines and it's easy to just kind of throw out an answer and you guys can hear just fine, but everybody else on Zoom or just calling in, it can be pretty challenging to hear. And so I think at times it's pretty important for those around, in the public that are just listening in to be able to hear what's being discussed on the sidelines. In the past, I did call up Melissa probably 5 or 6 months ago and asked if just communicated that we weren't hearing people very well. It was more, we could hear Chuck just fine, but it was Alan and John that we couldn't hear very well. And so she had mentioned that she would touch base with you guys and maybe encourage you to wear your microphone differently, or I'm not sure exactly what's required in order to hear better. And so I know those things can kind of be finicky at times, those kind of mics, but I just think it's really important for everybody to be able to hear and to hear it fairly precisely. I did a little research, and I'm not an expert in this area, but I looked, let's see if I was going to try to share a screen here. I don't know if I can get it done or not here. Yeah. I've never tried to share. Can I share from this end to you?
Well, yeah, you should be able to.
Well, that's probably not real important. There's a website called Martel Electronics.
Martel, Martel.
Yeah, maybe you're familiar with it, but it's a website. I'm sure there's 1,000 of them out there, so it's probably not necessarily special, but I found kind of a lot of courthouses use them supposedly for their, they've got area wireless mics that you can put in a room, and one single mic will pick up voices 30 feet out from the center. And it's supposed to be really precise, a really precise sound. And so if there was anybody speaking from outside of the podium, it would pick them up pretty easily according to what I've read, I guess. So
Jesse, can you repeat that website, the name of the company, spell it out?
Yeah, Martel, M-A-R-T as in Tom, E-L, Electronics.
Oh, electronics, okay.
Yeah, .com, and there's all kinds of options there. I know this OWL system's not bad. Right now, today, I can hear a lot of you guys speaking just fine, but
well, and sometimes our mics go off and we don't realize it because we're in the room and we forget to listen. Like right now, I know my mic's working fine, I can hear it, but there are times when they'll go off. I know Jacob's, he has had more trouble with his than anybody, and we're always fighting them. And if we don't hear it and somebody doesn't stop us, and that is one of the things I know with that situation with Lyle there a couple of weeks ago, and we're all trying to be more observant and slow down and make sure that everybody gets up to the mic. And one of the options is maybe we have 2 more microphones where people will come up and use them a little bit easier, but a lot of it is just getting people to slow down and not rush through it.
Yeah.
And getting to repeat everything. So.
Yeah, yep. I'll try to do a better job. We get caught in the moment in the conversation, and I know that if he's off mic, you're not hearing him, and I apologize, but it's after you've engaged. So we're just going to have to be more insistent. If you're going to speak, either you have to come to the podium or take the handheld. But and we can look into Martel. I think that 30 foot or whatever in a normal room. We had an acoustic guy out of Lincoln come in here, and this is such an unusual room with the angles, and they made a suggestion of putting up some panels, and the heck of that particular game is you could spend, I think his quote was $11,000, and there was no confidence that that would fix it. He thought that would get us started, and then he said, you know, until we hear it, we won't know.
Right.
But he was here to do his test. I mean, the sound is bouncing all over these walls, which would make the Martell really pretty. I think our best answer is if we can just keep people talking into a doggone microphone.
Yeah.
And if you've been hearing okay tonight?
Yeah, I mean, there was one time Jacob answered and I didn't hear him real well, so I don't know
His
if he
mic
needs
was
to.
off for a little bit.
But-
Yeah, it kind of comes and goes.
But otherwise, and you know,
Yeah, there's a second one somewhere. I'm not sure where it is. Oh, it's right behind you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we can just insist, in fact, maybe,
Kind of out further out for people to see.
Well,
yeah.
and Jacob and I may have to take turns going around and handing mics and being a little bit more involved in the program too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
We
I
can-
think it's a good place
Yeah.
to start.
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll sure do that, because that's gotta be frustrating if you can't hear it, and, it's
Well,
certainly
yeah,
not-
Yeah, it's just been kind of an ongoing thing. I mean, right now it's not too bad, but in the past it's been an issue.
Better than 6 months ago. I agree. It's,
My experience was with the phone. I had the worst time with Zoom for some reason. Seems
Really?
like when I called on the phone a long time ago, I had a hard time on the phone, but Zoom
Huh.
seems to be better. I don't know how that works, but
Yeah, that piece of equipment we have here has a reasonably good microphone on it.
yeah.
And that's where we're pushing. We've got a speaker right by our OWL microphone that is supposed to help project anything coming through the speaker system. So if we can get people in front of a mic, I think 90% of the problem will go away. Now, some people are just soft-spoken. Sometimes Jacob's soft-spoken, sometimes
Yeah.
Alan is.
Yeah.
this microphone makes everything so loud in there that sometimes you talk quieter because
Yeah.
loud.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's really all I had. Yeah, that's really all I
We need to
had.
have Jacob, or what do you think, Jacob, if they had all three of us given a shock collar and somebody could shock us when we don't speak up?
I don't think that's a good
ABC.
idea.
No,
I think you might wear,
Who gets the trigger?
electricity bill might go up. So, all right. Well, Jesse, sorry you're feeling under the weather.
Yeah.
I'm glad you could join us this
Yeah.
way, and really appreciate the feedback.
And we're gonna keep working at this. I mean, it's obvious that Zoom is a thing of our lives, so we're gonna try to keep making this better and better, so.
Well, I certainly think it's out of this whole pandemic, I guess. We've gone through all this, and some of the silver linings are I see a lot more people paying attention. Maybe it's not right during the meeting, but it's later on. They maybe check into YouTube or whatever and are able to be involved more so. So, I mean, I never had much to do with supervisor meetings 3 years ago. Didn't hardly know anything about it. And now I think it's good to be involved. So I appreciate you guys allowing Zoom to continue. So.
I know a lot of counties have quit it, but I don't think we have any intent to quit it.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks, Jesse. Good
Thanks.
feeling better.
Yep. Thank you.
You bet. Thanks.
All right, discuss and approve FY22 Rural Transit System Joint Participation Agreement. This is a SWIPCO agreement for the transportation system that's provided from our buses, and
Right.
we have an agreement. I know you sit on that board. This we kind of do annually, as I understand.
Correct.
Right, Paul?
Yeah.
It's a $6,000
Yes.
commitment.
Each county in the district is assessed or is asked to participate in a certain dollar amount. So, very important. It provides a great service. Probably, I'm not sure how much in Corinda it's used, but I know on Shenandoah side it's used tremendous amount, the suite of buses. So, it's a very important tool for all of Southwest Iowa. So.
Yeah, you see them everywhere, that's
Yeah.
for sure. So,
All the purple and white buses.
Yep. Yep.
Is it 6,000 is what we normally do every year?
Yep. Yep.
At least since I've been on the board, I think 6,000
yeah,
has been
yeah.
there.
We support that system. We support the housing, Southwest Iowa Housing Fund, where they do the demolitions and all throughout all the cities and community or in the county. We support that through SWIFTCO, and it's just been kind of standard every year, each year. We've actually, I think we have grown a little bit on some of those funds from what we were 5 years ago. We're finally catching up to what the other counties are doing. So
The other revenue stream for these buses are Medicaid and
Yes.
private pay.
yes, and there's a lot of federal dollars. They received a lot of funding through the COVID dollars. There's a lot of, it's been quite amazing what this last year has done for the busing system. So,
You know, I know Melissa's not here. Do you know off the top of your head which budget line that was put in?
I believe that comes out of the local option sales tax. That's what
I was wondering, is that where it is?
I believe. I know the transit fund is, or the housing fund is, that we pay is out of that. I'm not real sure.
Well, I know it was budgeted. I just don't remember which one it came out of. I think you might be right. Hate to put you on the spot.
No.
I don't have my book.
I just don't know if that.
Yes, here it is.
Yeah.
Although we had budgeted only 5,000.
Was that the for the transportation, or was that for the?
Oh, that was the housing.
That's the housing, that's fine. Yeah, I'm not sure if does it come out of the other, non-departmental? Is that where it comes out of?
I know it's in the budget somewhere.
Yeah.
I thought it was in that, but I was
No,
confused.
I think it's in one of those other.
You thought maybe it was.
I didn't see it down in the non-departmental. I know it's there.
Do you want to table this till we confirm it's in the budget, or do you, I mean, I'm confident it is.
It's in the budget.
I don't know where. Sorry, I don't know the budget. I don't have my green book. Here with me. I'd entertain a motion then to approve the request as presented.
I'll also move.
I'll second that. Okay, motion by Holmes, or by Armstrong, second by Holmes. And we'll find out, we'll clarify that, but I know it is. If it wasn't there, we have to make a special amendment or something. It is in there, so, okay, go ahead. All righty, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, next item, discuss and approve the FEMA-National Flood Insurance Policy Acknowledgement. This is important to us because of, as a county entity, for a couple of reasons. And a couple of years ago, we missed a deadline and didn't sign this agreement. And FEMA was kind enough, and the state of Iowa was kind enough to let us go back and retroactively fix it. When we have disasters declared by FEMA, if we don't have this agreement, if it's a flood disaster, then we're not eligible for any federal payments. So it's kind of a formality, doesn't cost us anything to agree. It says, here's, hey, look at our flood zone maps, and they're published regularly. I'm not sure, the last one I saw, I think it was 2016. And from a county property standpoint, you know, our west building is actually in the flood zone. So it not only protects taxpayers, but it protects us at that level as well. So the agreement's in the folder here. I came by and just glanced at it this morning. And anyway, anybody want to see it before we have a motion?
I worked on it, Jacob,
Did you take
3 years ago, or 2 years ago, whenever we ran into a little bit of an issue, and kind of helped get that smoothed over with the feds. And I would just specify that we don't want to be late again.
No, we don't want to be late again. They may not be quite as nice.
They were pretty polite the last time.
Yeah.
Chris did a very good job of helping with that. getting that caught up. So, yeah, $6,000 is in the
Non-departmental?
Yeah, I didn't
You
see
missed
it the
it?
first
Okay.
time. Anyway, it's $6,000 is in our budget. It's called Services to the Elderly.
Okay.
So,
Now, this includes that building that's in the floodplain.
yep,
Just listing it on there. Does acknowledging that that building's in a floodplain not make it where our other insurance doesn't cover it if it's flooded or not?
Well,
I guess they know it is.
no, there's no flood or there's no coverage on our regular insurance for any water. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I guess I've seen it.
So do I have a motion to approve the FEMA agreement or National Flood Insurance Policy Acknowledgement?
I'll make that motion to approve that. FEMA-National Flood Insurance Policy Acknowledgement.
I'll second that.
Okay, second by Holmes. Any other discussion? It's pretty straightforward. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. All right, next up on our agenda list, you might look at this and say, what the heck's going on? Let me give you a little background. Back in December, there are only 2 of our townships in Page County that continue to elect their trustees. The other townships have allowed the Board of Supervisors to make those appointments. And so the chairman of the supervisor board typically in early December starts looking at which terms are expiring, where there are holes. And I spent a lot of time, first 2.5 weeks of December calling folks. And in Harlan Township, John VanFosson has been the clerk. And John stated that he really would like to train somebody to be the clerk. And all the people he had talked with kind of told him, no, they weren't interested in it. And so anyway, long story short, John and I were both trying to recruit members with the idea that, somebody could go under John's wing and kind of learn the clerk, and John would help him out and then transition next year. Well, somewhere along the line, you get into the holidays or whatever, John found R.J. Peters, didn't tell me. I found Russell Herzberg. I left a message that he didn't get. So when they had their trustee meeting, they didn't tell Russell because John didn't know he was there. R.J. had been invited and they showed up. So it was just kind of a mess. But by law, we have to, when we do our reporting out, we have to have it clear. So what we procured here today are letters of resignation from Russ Herzberg and John VanFosson so that we can appoint John as a clerk and R.J. as a trustee. So that's the process that we have to go to clean up our mess.
So John was a trustee, now he's going to be the clerk.
Yes.
He would know how all that works.
So, and then
that is one group motion, or do we need to do each one individually?
we probably ought to do each one individually just to clear it up. So I would like a motion to accept the resignation of Russell Herzberg.
I'll make the motion to accept Russell Herzberg's resignation.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right, motion by Holmes, second by Armstrong. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion for resignation of John VanFosson as trustee.
Also move.
Second.
Okay, motion by Armstrong, second by Holmes. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, now we need a motion to appoint John VanFosson as a Harlan Township clerk and R.J. Peters as a Harlan Township trustee. So moved. Okay,
I'll second it.
motion by Holmes, second by Armstrong. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion carries. Okay, thank you. Thanks to Russell and John and RJ for stepping up. Russ said that at which point that there's some help needed on the township board to come back and knock on his door. So anyway, next up is the discuss approve resolution 30-2021 appropriations for the amendment. Here's my understanding here of this. We 2 meetings ago approved the budget amendment as presented. However, we did not put it in resolution form, and we need to do that. The resolution is here. Somewhere. Transit. Well, I might give this back to Christie to have her find it since I'm all thumbs. If you would, please. It was in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
Good.
We all three fit in together pretty good.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a formalization of the budget amendment, which was approved the last meeting in May. So would entertain, whenever we're ready, entertain a motion to approve signing the resolution.
So moved.
I'll second that. Okay, motion by Armstrong, second by Holmes. Any questions or other discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion carries 3-0. All right. So, next up, I asked to put this on the agenda. Well, first of all, we met with Tom Nordhus in closed session, and we failed to come out of closed session to do anything. We did not set, as is our obligation, to set his salary. The comp board, just in summary real quick, comp board makes a recommendation of what the salary increase for our employees would be at the top end. We encourage all of our department heads, and in this case, we're the authority over Tom and over JD, as we last week visited. And we encourage all of our department heads to, in their evaluations of their deputies and their employees, to use the dollars given by or suggested by the comp board and approved by the board of supervisors to help instill, some camaraderie and some merit increases or whatever, however they best see it. So, long story short, when there's a 4% increase suggested and approved, that does not mean that every employee gets 4%. It's at the discretion of their direct supervisor. So we did not come out of our discussion with Tom to make that recommendation. I know salary surveys need to be completed for the auditor to do all their reporting. So we need to come up with a number up to 4% on that particular raise. So that's where we're at. Any discussion or ideas?
Well, I think in all fairness, after a discussion that we had that day, without going into any detail of closed session discussion, there were some concerns, there were some areas of maybe a weakness or in areas of strength, a lot of confusion. This last year and a half has probably been an ultimate disaster for anybody that had more than one boss. It was just a very unfortunate year. I don't know how to judge a fair raise when I don't feel that we probably were the best of leaders the last year. I mean, we just had so many conflicts going on that it was hard to. It seemed like every time we were going somewhere, we were turning directions, trying to do something else to put out solve another issue that our safety director kind of got stuck doing. I don't know. And I guess in retrospect of doing his job, for the most part, of things that we asked him to do or that he was asked to do by whether it was somebody in the courthouse or public health or whichever department, he probably did pretty okay. But in retrospect to safety, he was probably a little lacking there, but that's, you know, I just find this last year really overwhelming. It was just a really crappy year. You know, whether we do it 2%, 3%, or 4%, I don't know if that is going to solve all the problems, but yet I think that we're going to have to come up with a number pretty quick and get that part done.
Okay.
So,
I said in the budget hearings that I was for no more than 2% all the way through,
Mhm.
and that's probably where I would be. But in this situation, is I talked to other county supervisors. I don't know if that was ever a discussion here, but
Mhm.
a lot of counties, other counties for safety director use a stipend. You know,
Mhm.
I think we're all here to discuss full-time, part-time. Should we do that next? I'm not talking about that now.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll do that
Okay.
next, yeah. We just need to
On the,
decide on that.
and on the raise situation, I think that's where I would cap out at. And when we were discussing our pay, supervisor's pay, I didn't want to give us any raise whatsoever, or even take a cut. But the argument whatever the other thoughts were, if everybody gets 4, we just keep it all the same. So it's confusing with JD and with
Mhm.
Tom.
It
but
is.
Now we're gonna
Yeah.
do it. I like merit rate
Yeah.
better. I like
And that's the whole thing, because the other departments have their own, but we don't see that. We don't know.
I guess
what the
I didn't know that
average
anyone
office
else, when we give the 4% for every department head, I didn't know that they didn't get 4%.
Yeah.
And they don't.
The way to come board is for the elected officials.
To decide. Oh, for the elected
Yeah.
officials.
Officials,
They
they
decide
decide for their deputies and their.
whether or not
departments.
they keep.
Now, I will say this, and it's unfortunate, but it's the way it is. And in my view, it's unfortunate. It's the way it is. Not all department heads do merit raises.
Yeah.
And some of them say, we're getting all 4%.
Yep.
That's how. That there are several departments that I know say, look, here's some goals, and you met this one, you didn't meet this one, so we're gonna cap it off at 3 or 2.5.
Merits per production.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I like
And I wish all of our departments frankly did that, but we don't have that control to force that. But in the case of JD, he directly reports to us, safety director, directly reports to us as well.
So we're their department head. Well, the 2 would be my cap, so I would probably be less than that, seeing some of the confusion and time situations tonight. So that's where I'm at. So I don't know how we go forward with that on this specific salary, I guess.
Well, if you can make that a motion if you'd like. I mean, I don't know what the right number is. Again, it is confusing. And to Alan's point, while I think that, you know, the guy's done everything we've asked him to do, the problem has been that we've been engaged in so many other things that maybe some of the more important stuff that we should have been focused on,
Right.
didn't get focused on. So I don't know. And then if, you know, I mean, as it blends into the next issue, if it does become a part-time job, then I think that also could come into play with that percent, because you'd be dealing with a lot less dollars.
I don't have my book. What is his salary?
Salary is $52,000.
$52, yeah. Plus the, okay.
So again, probably multiple correct answers and multiple incorrect answers. So we could take if somebody'd like to make a motion, let's maybe get started that way.
I don't know. I just have a hard time justifying a raise being fair no matter what on a year that we had and for the different job duties that we kept making him do. I just don't know how to have a fair raise, you know.
Most counties not even having this position, just having
Yeah.
a full-time job.
You know, and a lot of those too, they've got somebody within their department that they had an assistant engineer or somebody that was trained to do that. And that's the case where we do not have an assistant to JD or an assistant that was their duties, that would take care of all the bookwork, all the OSHA requirements, all the different things. That's one of the things that we had looked at probably 3.5 years ago. We talked about it. It's been in the budget to have an assistant in that office. We just never did ever do that. And I think that that item has been on the JD's wish list, well, our wish list, since I became a supervisor. And therefore, when the safety was done, it was kind of geared toward fulfilling that kind of position. So in a sideways manner, kind of.
Yeah, and amidst all that scenario, then came the poor performance on work comp and the pressure from our carrier to get something done, or else we're dropping. I mean, so we weren't successful. I think our first choice was to have JD have an assistant engineer, because when you talk to county engineers across the state of Iowa that you respect, and you say, "What's your secret to success?" Almost to a man, they say, "I've got a good assistant."
Which we don't have in Page County.
We have superintendents, but they're not engineering degree assistants. So, so I think that would have been our first choice 3.5, 4 years ago, whatever. But then and part of that is a function, it's hard to find engineers. It's hard to find assistant engineers. Because a lot of times what the game plan is you find a county you want to aspire to ascend to the leadership role. And we've had some people over the last 10 years that they've left. So, and then, well, we can talk more about the merits of full-time and part-time. I've got some thoughts on that, but we can talk there. So it's like two different things. Solve the one,
because,
go to the other.
I'll be very honest. If we don't decide where we're going to go with the full to part-time, what we're going to do there, apply the raises is immaterial.
Right.
So I'm not so sure if we don't need to
do that first.
Table the first and move to the second and come back to the,
Sure, I'm okay. Are you okay with that? Okay. So we'll discuss changing that position from full to part-time then. And the reason why I asked to have that on the agenda was, in retrospect, catching your breath, looking back over the last 18 months of what we've been through and what we've accomplished, what we've not accomplished, and you start pushing a pencil. We've had a contract proposed to us from SBR Direct, Mark Schaefer, who really kind of got us started on safety. And I had a conversation with Mark, I think on one day last week, and I got to looking at the numbers, and to me, it looks like if we had, Tom's a great guy. I want to state that first and foremost. Tom's a great guy, and he's reliable. He's bent over backwards to fill our many requests. And I think I would hope that if we decide to go part-time, that Tom would want to stay, because I think he can add a lot of value to the county. But I do think the missing link in the realization is I'm not a safety expert. I don't think anybody at this table is a safety expert. We don't have a calendar of what we're going to do. We don't have the education plan. I sat on a webinar this morning from IWMCA and their NextGov, which previously was the IMWCA University. The training tools are unbelievable, and I think it's critical. When we talk about safety at any level, we have two primary goals. Number one, at the end of each day, we want all of our employees to go home safely. Number two is we want to protect taxpayers in Page County and not pay any more for their premiums than we have to. Now, we did get a good piece of word from our insurance agent today.
Yes, I did see
Yes.
that, yeah.
So the mod went down marginally. You know, if you're anything over a 1 and the work comp is never good and we lose all of our potential discounts when we're over 1, we went from 1.33 to 1.29, which step in the right direction.
Yes.
However, as we begin 2021, we've had some claims. And historically, we have had, in the last 20 years, and Pete can give you the chart, we have good years like we just had, and then we spike for 2 or 3, and then we're down for 1 or 2. And so I am not convinced that we have totally changed culture. And I think that part of the reason, in my mind, we haven't changed culture is that we've been less focused on safety than we need to be. And I don't have the expertise to bird dog it. And I think in pushing the pencil, we could go to half-time, 20 hours a week on this position for $800 to $1,000 a month on an annual contract. We could hire SPR direct. Overall package will save 43% of what we're spending today on safety. And I'm not ready to give up on safety. I think it's critical that we keep the foot on the pedal because we got to get our people home safe every night, and we got to keep our premiums as low as we can keep them. But when you push the pencil and look at what we got done when we hired Mark and when we started this and where we're at today, I think it makes a great deal of sense bringing Mark back to direct traffic, make sure that we're making forward progress, and making sure that when Tom gets distracted, that he, has the courage to say, hey, I don't have time. This is my job. And that's been part of the problem.
No, I agree 100%. It's not, I think it's been on us. I agree. We've just done we got somebody raise their hand, said we need to do this. We said, well, who's available? Well, who is left? Tom.
And that's unfortunate because there's a lot of stuff in safety we should be doing that we're not.
The department heads and superintendents, like, really in any culture, the leader is the one that's going to, if somebody was acting dangerously in the restaurant, you're the head, you catch it, you create an environment. So a lot of it goes to the managers. They need to be trained to help.
And that's the thing. We don't have, if I say, okay, change our culture, well, how do we do that? And how do we do it without somebody directing that?
It sure seems like a part-time job to me, off what I've talked to other counties about.
We've signed Mark on for.
We haven't signed a thing with Mark. And again, he'd be willing to come on at any length. I said, for what I'd like to do is, if it's agreeable with the board, is to go 1 year at a time and make sure we do a better job of managing it and seeing that end result, which again, we have not done. It's on us.
I like 1 year at a time. See what the results are happening, reassess.
But I'm telling you, watching this thing today, again, this administrative piece for the NextGov University, we have training available to us, unbelievable training, that in a case of any litigation, if we have it documented and our people have been trained, we're in good shape. But more important than that is, as hokey as it is to get safety training, nobody likes it. They think, oh yeah, I know that. If a little bit of it sticks, it's good. And just to think, and if it just makes them think one more time, maybe we won't have hose get turned over without seat belts on. Maybe we won't have people cutting their hand with machetes. Those stupid things that just kill you.
Because would Mark or would a part-time employee be the one to do the group training on us? Who would be the one to do that?
Mark would, our part-time employee would be doing the footwork, would be boots on the ground. But his accountability would come through Mark. Mark would be kind of the gatekeeper who could regularly report to us and say, here's the progress we've made, here's what we need to do, here's our goals. And then he can help educate us to be better managers and kind of serve that role, be the gatekeeper, if you will.
And with the full-time employee, I don't really want to hire Mark because it just becomes another. We end up with $100,000. Right. Most counties aren't spending a small percentage of that. Right. So I like the hybrid situation, I think.
Well, to me,
try it out, try something else here.
to me, and like I say, nothing against Tom. Tom's a terrific guy and really appreciate his service. You hate, starting something, but on the other side of that, we're almost right at 2 years in, and when we established this, we all agreed that this was a 2 to 3 year job, a full-time job, and we're just shy of 2 years, and I think we're to a point where we need to strongly consider doing it a little differently.
I guess I'm going to go back to my original point. Two things. One is I wish we could figure out a way to maybe cut him to half-time safety, and then if we can put him into another department where he can be a viable employee, whether it's in secondary roads, where it's something separate where he can be focused with Mark's expertise. JD picks up part of the salary. I don't know. I know that the 2 years, yes, but if you take this last from March out, and we just didn't jumpstart again back in probably in February when we should have, we just kind of let things slide. And I don't know. I just don't feel good about not starting over fresh with what we have, because we didn't have any communication much with Mark. I've talked to him a couple of times as all. We just haven't had much of anything. We just kind of gone stale, and part of that is change of one new person. We had to all relearn everything. New processes, knew everything. A lot of discussion changed, and we kind of forgot about it. First of the year, and it's been I'm not saying it's going to be a fix, but I don't feel comfortable in eliminating it because I'm pretty well concerned if we cut the position to half time, and if we lose Tom, then is Mark going to be able to do enough? Who are we going to have? Will we be able to find somebody else? Because it wasn't exactly an easy position to fill.
This is true. But I do, and I told JD this today before the meeting. I don't have a very good feeling about, if somebody wants to hire Tom the other 20 hours in the county, I guess that's okay. I'm not comfortable with him being hired in secondary roads because that's where the majority of our risk comes, and there's just too much potential for conflict.
Yeah.
Of being buddies with the guys and then having to,
be the hard.
Have some discipline. I don't think that's fair to Tom to put him in that position.
I know it's a very close issue, but
So a part-time job would be basically half the salary, no benefits. That's the right way to look at it.
Yeah, be the hourly salary, whatever,
what do we set it? What is 20, 52?
Yeah, 52. It's about $26,000 a year. That's before any raise.
Yeah.
Right.
Be about, what would that be about? And
$20-something.
And going back to that issue, I mean, if this board decides to make it a half-time position, I think it would be wise for us to go the full board. For two reasons. You mentioned if Tom didn't want to stay, I mean, that's a possibility. I hope not, but if he doesn't, then,
You would save a lot of benefits too. There'd be a big savings on benefits.
yeah, it's a 43% savings if we, minimum, depending on, how Mark thought, his cost would be between $800 and $1,000. And on the top cost, that would be when he has to travel out here in a month. He plans on doing it pretty much remotely.
It would be at that 26,000 would roughly be $25 an hour.
Yep, $25. Yeah.
So
That's a pretty good part-time job.
Yeah.
A lot of people they'd have his training.
Well, and this is the thing about, that I feel really good about with Mark. This has been Mark's business, and he's a real upbeat guy. I mean, he's frank and he's firm, but he's upbeat. And if somebody's interested in learning, he's got all the patience in the world. And he would direct Tom or whoever goes in there and say, here's our calendar for what we need to get done this week.
Would 20 hours a week of focused safety be better than 40 of
Well,
20?
I think
There's
so.
no distractions whatsoever, just 20 hours here you go.
Yeah, I think so. I really do. So do you want to go back, well, which motion do you want first?
I guess if we make it a motion, if somebody makes a motion to go for full or part-time, and that passes, I would say that we would not need, motion for a,
Salary increase?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make that motion. I like the hybrid, I like trying it for years. I think it makes business sense, good business sense. So it's nothing against him. I think he's a very reliable, very good employee, but it just makes sense to try it this way.
so your motion is to go to a part-time position and then to hire, Mark Schaefer as a consultant at approximately $8,000 to $1,000 a month
On a one-year contract?
on a one-year contract. or-
So we'd be basically at about, like you said, 40. About 38,000 roughly total for the department-ish.
Unless there was a lot of trips, mileage,
Right.
Yeah.
hotels.
And right now, we're, I think, at 85,000, that mark, somewhere in that ballpark. Yeah, no, I think this is a good thing to try.
How much did you say with that one?
I
85?
feel like it's 85,000.
No, it would only
Where's the
be
green book? Or is it set?
Yeah, with the
about
benefit?
50, 64 or 5.
yeah, but then the benefit package.
No, that would be with 52 plus the benefit.
Yeah, plus benefit.
Yeah, so about 65.
No. Our benefit package for
Is it more than
health
that?
insurance, in fact,
I thought it was-
the county's cost is $22,000
22, okay, I'm
a
sorry.
year
I thought it was
for family health insurance.
Okay.
So it'd be 70. So what's the total? You have the total. I don't have my green book.
Well, I got my green book.
So I'll get the whole department. There's other things besides the salary.
Yeah, then you got IPERS, you got FICA and all.
It's just, I think it was 80-some thousand, but I don't remember.
It could be. Yeah, I think you're right, Jacob. Let's see, safety. We had it split out as a department, didn't we, this time?
I think it stands alone, yeah.
Oh,
Not,
Department 89? 96, Department 96?
It's clear at the back.
yeah, it's one page. deal.
Oh.
Yeah, it's 84,348.
So we'd be cutting that in half, pretty safe, it looks to be. And still getting 20 hours of hard safety and a
Right.
guy that reads and knows all the OSHA and all that stuff. So I like that hybrid, to try that a year, especially if this job was created, being said it was a 2 to 3 year deal. This isn't even a giant surprise if that was kind of laid out in the beginning.
Yeah, I think we were real
I
clear about
wasn't here
that.
then. But, so I make a motion to do that, to make it a part-time job.
20 hours a week, $25 an hour.
That's what it'd be, half of his salary, so yeah.
Okay.
And if it, the salary reflects his amount of experience. Again, if we opened up to somebody else, I don't know, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
He's
you're
got a lot
talking
of
for Tom,
years
for Tom.
We're talking about Tom here.
Yeah, we're talking about Tom. If Tom
He has
decided-
20-some years of experience in safety, so.
Yes, right.
So he would merit a salary, a part-time salary of that nature.
So,
How to work it, right? But
you probably should put an effective date of when you want this to happen.
July 1st.
Be nice to give him some time, you know,
Yeah, it's
be
true.
too quick. I mean, August 1st or something to make that, or, I mean, is it too much of a jolt on somebody with full-time, part-time? I don't want to make it too quick. It would be- Maybe you can do a whole bunch of safety stuff for the next month. Or is that across the fiscal year?
Well, I mean, 3 weeks is, if you're changing from full to part, it's a shock whether it's 3 weeks or 6 weeks, depending on how you look at it.
Or 3 years.
Or 3 years.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. This is just running this like a business, and I think other counties do not spend this much. If we can try another model, maybe it'll work better. Maybe you'll enjoy it more too, even we don't know. So I'm open discussion on that. I don't have to make this motion.
Well, go ahead and make a motion, we can kind of discuss.
Timeline, I'll make a motion to move the safety director position from full-time to part-time at the cost of half of the salary, which would be $26,000 or $25 an hour, you say 11 there, for Tom. And offer, is that it? Effective, I'd like to discuss that, either July 1st or August 1st. I don't know which one, I'm open on that.
Okay. I would go, I would say July 1st would be my, but.
Okay, well, I guess effective July 1st.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Got a motion by Holmes, second by Armstrong. Yeah, I mean, that's a good, question. And nobody wants to be unfair. But I think that, in our world, 3 weeks, is, if he were quitting, he would give us 2 weeks. Then we would, I think 3 weeks, I would be comfortable with July. And it's easy for me to say because I'm not Tom. And I don't mean to sound insensitive, but in the world of business, I think 3 weeks is not unfair. We got a motion and a second. I would also say that what we would ask Tom to do, but what's your opinion, but in this reduced role, is our expectation of our safety director when we have an accident, that he would continue to be responsive to that accident, to go do the investigation on site. And then we would ask him to, do his best to avoid overtime so that he could flex it later in his pay period. We would ask him to maintain the 20 hour.
He's getting a very nice wage for a part-time job. Try not to use overtime. It's not needed.
Yeah, if at all possible. And there may be some situations where it's not. But. All right, we have a motion. Any other discussion? Probably ought to roll call that one. Christie, please.
No.
Yes.
Yes. Motion carries 2-1. All right, well, Tom, I know you're on the call. Appreciate it. And if you have any questions, reach out to any of us in the morning or at your convenience. And sincerely appreciate your efforts, and I hope you understand that from a fiscal point of view, this probably makes the most sense to the majority of this board.
Just a job that doesn't merit that much time with Mark Schaefer coming in. But that's why I thought Tom's a good worker. But it's a fiscal decision.
All right, board communication. We have to laugh because we said 2 weeks ago, oh, we'll remember, and then last week we forgot. So
Let's start off. I want to hear about, I read the report on the jail survey.
Got notes over here. Well, it's my second tour of the jail. We went over the things I learned. If I got my notes correct, we have 35 beds basically. I think that was in their notes too. One of the problems that stuck out to me is our video surveillance this week. That's good to say, but we can to protect your liability. Videos are not, cameras aren't very expensive things to protect a lot, especially in that environment. So that's something even outside of a new jail that could be thought about with some, maybe COVID money, I don't know, or some way. It's just something that seemed to stick out because you don't want these people accusing the staff of things, and then the camera would protect them.
Right.
To protect the county.
Yeah.
One thing that stuck out also was our average daily population is 13 males, 2 females. I don't know. currently, or it's been declining, I guess, we understood it. I think it used to be in the 20s at one time.
Yeah, just a couple of years ago, it was 2021 was pretty normal for a day.
Now, there's some reasons for that, which we kind of went through. They try not, however he words that, prosecution tries their best not to overwhelm the system. Okay. What else we got here? There's, of course, the jail. I mean, the building itself. I mean, it's amazing how strong the building is. And that by the tornado, I do not think would take that jail.
No, I don't think so
The
either.
rebar and concrete, that thing is unbelievable.
It is amazing.
It has shifted some due to rust from all the steel plates the concrete's on. I think that's raising the top floor. We can see that. One of the most alarming things with this whole thing, I mean, there's definite issues with the jail, and it's not the most practical.
No.
The way it has to operate. Stairs, the narrow, and the plumbing and the wiring running along the bars.
The plumbing and the wiring are real.
Running by the bars, so there's issues there. The thing that was said is a 35-bed jail, and I can't remember the county he mentioned, but he threw out the number $9 to $10 million in this county, and I said, is that currently like with the increases? He said no. So we're staring down the nose of $10 to $15 million in my mind. Which all of a sudden,
Did you ask him pre-spike in construction costs, what the square footage cost was?
I did not break it down to square foot. He just threw out I just was passing us that, and I said, was that before or after? And he said, that's all done before this increase in steel and concrete.
When in Guthrie County, may have been the county that they most recently did, but when I asked the square footage cost in Guthrie County, and this was done before all these crazy prices, when you had the architectural fees, land acquisition, sewer and stuff, it was $800 a square foot.
800.
800. Yeah. And so this is why, and I'll want to remind you, and I appreciate you being at these meetings, this is why our board was so interested in seeing if dispatch could be in a separate location, either remain there or move, because if you're spending $860
office space.
Yeah.
I agree. I totally agree.
Okay.
And I agree. And either stay where they are or whatever. But what I got also out of this was there's got to be a better mousetrap here. Like you said, they need they use the multi-purpose room. They have use for everything, and they have a run room they use for multiple things. A lot of this space doesn't have to be secure to the jail. It's offices and places to put evidence and all these different things. I don't know. The fees, of course, and all of our fees from whoever, Samuel, whoever, based on the cost.
Yeah.
Of all this is going to be unbelievable. I can't remember what the total is, 7 or 8% together,
roughly 7.
And that ballpark kind of put together, the $10 million, $700,000, $15 million, $1 million basically. Wow. There's got to be, and I ask people what they think. What do you think about this? I kind of throw some of this out of them. What do you think about this? I mean, definitely there's something that needs to be done.
Yes.
At some point, probably sooner than later. I see that, but there's got to be some kind of a solution where you could find some kind of there's got to be a way inside a code to do this and not spend $10, $15 million and have a long lasting deal. I was also told in the discussion several years ago, I don't know how many, there was a hybrid solution with the building and then shooting a jail off of it, which I like that idea. Building this super secure thing, it's so expensive, and it's having a nice building to connect to. And I think the total cost was like $4 million 2 years ago, and it wasn't done. I don't know how many years ago that was. Probably a while. I'm making my buildings mixed up. I don't want to tell you wrong, but that was wild. And once we build a new building, then we're on current we're grandfathered on a lot of things right now. Once we build, then we have to meet current then, and then we're grandfathered then, so they can't change it on them next year. I don't know, the dollar per square foot really matters, because to build a break room for $800 square foot is not a good idea.
No, not a good idea at all.
So,
And so I would ask you to ask Greg to get that number. And I might not have quoted quite right.
And that's one of the reasons why we looked at dispatch over in this new annex, because the cost of that building was minimal.
We paid $13 a square foot.
Yeah,
for that
and that's why we,
I wish it was able to hold the office of shoot jail also, with that building's not cohesive.
it possibly could, but it would take a special design, like probably would, because it'd have to be two or three level, and that's one of the
A lot of
things.
people aren't wanting 2 level.
Yeah,
Because
that's
it
one of
makes
the things.
drain
Well, then there's so many,
mezzanine.
and then the neighborhood issue is also.
One thing that was brought up that I did like, that did make sense to me, was they said in your room size, it doesn't take very many more square feet to be able to have the ability to have a bunk bed, the bunk. So all of a sudden, because it's a lot of dollars per bed. But if you do the bunk situations, they try to do that for smaller places.
As-
We're at 15 people right now. So if we had something happen, for some reason we needed more, they could design it to have your overflow to be a bunk. Which doesn't cost much. You add a few more square feet per room, per cell, and that kind of makes sense. And it also gives you a cushion or buffer as regulations change, your cell's a little bit bigger anyway. So that makes sense, because you're adding a bunk in is very expensive, and you've got the whole thing there anyway. I was hoping that we were talking 5 to 10 million, and it looks to me like 10 to 15 for 35 beds, which seems unbelievable. They said, he said, what I was told was the steel building option, which I like, is fine in Missouri, fine in Kansas, and not. Now, I wonder, this is my thinking, can the steel building not be the offices and all of that, and then just build your security?
I don't know,
office?
maybe.
That's a question for them. But at $10 to $15 million, I'm not wanting to go into that. And that'll turn, you know how that goes. It'll be more than that. So there's got to be a way to do this, to put forth a plan that does not explode into, like we talked about, the roads, all the need for, a lot of needs in the county.
Did the meeting include, and I understand your angst, because it's a lot of money and we cut it. Did they talk about, if you don't have the jail, what the cost of transport is and what the cost of housing?
One thing that was brought up was how much we spend on transport. Because that's a big selling point in the village jail. We're not spending anything right now. We're at a low number. But if our jail was ruled inadequate, then we would have to transport, and there would be costs. And I did not get those numbers. We need to see what
I
that
can't
is.
remember, Lyle, and you just mentioned those again the other night, but I can't remember.
what
how much
it
it
would
was.
cost.
It's very expensive because of the labor, the cost of
Right.
the drivers,
It's just,
And then the rent, and we have
and then
reciprocal agreements
yeah.
on overflow, but if you don't have a jail to reciprocate, you're gonna pay all those daily fees.
It's gonna be tremendous.
this is a question maybe for a while. Does the person who's sent to jail have to pay for their work off their time spent if they can ever?
Well, I think if there's some remuneration they're supposed to do, but the reality is.
Collecting it would be
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah.
Probably, but
It's not a perfect world.
there's cost either way. There's cost hauling people, there's cost building a new jail, because once that jail's built, that's not it. And you've got the overhead of running that place, that building. Oh, now they spoke on the efficiency. We're gonna say on efficiency, which I agree with that. The thing is, I applaud the sheriff and everybody they're using that spray foam on that jail. The transport, $12,000 to spend. They stopped all leaks, made it where it wasn't hot, it helped the insulation factor.
Oh, yeah.
And it also made it look better. Yeah, that was a very practical use of $12,000 to extend the life of that jail. And
Why, now, what inefficiencies are creating the $800 to $1,000 a month water?
I wonder about that too, because that's one thing that came up with that. And they said, I can't believe it. Well, at that rate, it's in town, but $1,000 like that, now they use a lot of water, I don't know. That is a lot of water.
It is a lot of water.
Because I use a lot of water at the farm. I'm on a well now, but I used to be on low water, and to use that much water would be.
Their water bill is $1,000 a month now.
Between 800 and 1,000.
And I'd have to do the numbers on that, that could be 80,000 gallons, that would be an unbelievable.
It's
I
a
mean,
lot of.
But what, I mean,
what could you use that much water?
what's inefficient? I mean, you're buying, because I think Greg said something about we could improve the efficiencies on water, but how do you do that?
I don't know, and that, I need to ask more about that, because that almost seems
Unless they've got
unbelievable.
leaks somewhere in the
But that
system.
kind of leak, you'd have a,
You'd-
you'd have to
you'd
fix
have
it,
a-
they're just small about
Yeah, you'd be pumping water out of the basin all the time.
Yeah, and the basement can get wet, we went down there, it has.
And I guess that's just a serious question. We need to ask Lyle, has anybody talked to the city of Brenda to see where our rates have gone, or where our usage has gone, if we have a system issue? Are they toilets running nonstop, or they're, I mean,
There'd have to be
Yeah.
something, and I can't remember everything said, but that was probably the biggest, because I think they solved it a lot with their efficiency.
With that spray foam.
With that spray foam.
Yeah.
And leaks, the roof was leak, because it's sealed, and they came back and did a little more after hail or something.
what's our water bill here in the courthouse? Huh? $50 a month? I
Can they
really
flush
not-
the stool that much? I mean, there's gotta be something more, I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to be taking a shower any more often than anybody else, and they're not,
They're washing clothes almost
Yeah.
nonstop.
yeah.
But
Aren't they?
a $500,
Yeah.
4 or 5 would be
Yeah,
a
I mean,
lot.
My
I water
restaurant-
cattle, and they drink, I'm using 1,000 gallons a day, when I was doing it, I don't know how in the world.
Yeah, to me, I saw that.
Something-
How are you gonna say the efficiency? So it sounds like a rate issue
Yeah,
to
well,
me.
or we've got an issue.
There's
Yeah.
something leaking, but I don't
Leaking
know. That
outside
needs
the
to be,
building, I don't know.
they said the heat and air was most, within the last 10 years. Now, the upstairs does not have the same system as, it doesn't have an exchanger up there, I don't think. There's one on the first floor, but not the second floor. And there's a little bit of mold at times from that, and they wash it off every once in a while, they said, but I walked through on a hot day, and it wasn't, other than being very old bars and everything, and plumbing, it was cool in there, I felt comfortable. But I'm impressed with how long it has lasted. Yeah. They brought the cells up, they were used.
Yeah, the building doesn't know the county.
It doesn't own anything, and I think there needs to be a plan in the future to do something.
Yeah.
Well, Jacob, I appreciate you spending the time to go to the meeting and and I cut you off, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine, go ahead, it's just,
I mean, I'm with you. It's gonna be a lot of money whether we don't operate a jail or we try to build a new one. But to your point, here's some strategies that I think could help us. I believe that if there's a way to not hurt the operation and have dispatch remain where they're at, not have to build that space, we could save some money. And I'm not saying that's a good idea, but if it could work, it could save us some money. I also think once you get through the jail study and move to next steps, we need to do an RFP and get all the bidders and have people sharpen their pencils, because I think when you get to that point with the spike in all these building supplies and with the supply chain problems, I think we're gonna, and maybe not that far along, get into an area where we have some contractors that are hungry. And the other thing that I think the community needs to talk about, have a serious discussion about, this is really out in left field, but two of the drivers that, everybody wants a crystal ball and nobody has one. But this constriction or potential constriction of courts in the state of Iowa really concerns me. So should we look at a strategy of building it a half again bigger, figuring that we're in a better position to get the business, the court business, and to do the strategy like Woodbury County is using to house federal prisons?
my problem, I get the idea, but my problem with that is bringing in rougher federal prisons in the state's county.
But, okay, I understand, but if you're building the state-of-the-art facility, like we have out here at the prison, why do we have to just keep a class of Otis of drunks? I mean, quite frankly,
Right, and that's an option I would look at. I like the option of finding some quality solution that includes, I don't want to use building that has a bunch of problems. But maybe if the community knows we're looking for somewhere that would be a nice building to shoot a secure jail off of, maybe there's something that exists we haven't thought about. Just brainstorming.
The one, I think that's a good point. I've had people say, well, why not out here at the MHI?
Yeah, the lodge. I've heard the lodge.
The lodge. Here's, you're gonna spend a lot of money to rehabilitate that. Here's the bigger issue. Do the citizens of Clarinda want deputies speeding through town? Because there's no highway access there. I mean, it'd be a horrible location.
Yeah. One thing to consider there, as far as a negative to that location, one positive is out by the current prison and all that, kind of not in the neighborhood. I understand the other idea, you want to speed through town. I don't know, there's some other buildings that have been mentioned, I need to go look at them. I just like people to brainstorm. People might have an idea we haven't thought of. Yeah. But if there was a solid building that was solid, that was had the right landscape around to add something on, we could take this down and a ton of money. But I don't want a problem.
Right. But, well, I think your point's well taken. If you have people all talking about it and coming forward with.
We're all going to pay for it. So everybody brainstorming.
Yeah.
What do we do here? We're in a 100-year decision. We got to brainstorm. A steel building for the office, maybe we would build something simple and shoot the jail off of it.
Well, it sounded like you had a good meeting.
It was interesting. Yeah, very interesting.
Did you have any other meetings you wanted to talk about?
I had a landfill meeting. There wasn't much new business with that. My weeks are mixed together.
What I had
Coming up here, I was looking at just some things coming up. The 9 a.m. Golden Hills meeting that we had email today.
when I forwarded you.
Yeah. Are we going to zoom into that or?
I can't, I didn't look that close, but that's one you're on, correct?
My Golden Hills, I think, I'm on,
WMA is the watershed management.
and I'll go up to it, but I think they
I didn't look that close, Jake.
Golden Hills, I think that was changed out. They don't have a supervisor.
No.
Right,
no.
that's.
But it's all on Golden.
Yeah.
It all ties together though, so
Yeah.
I don't mind going.
The WMA, and that's something that, to be very honest, JD is on that, and he's an actual voting partner in that. I just wanted to send that to you in case you had any questions about it.
Yeah.
I don't think that any of us are on that anymore. Other than, I went a couple of times with JD the very first year, but I just sat and listened.
Yeah.
Because as long as JD's there, we don't have a second voice.
Right.
So.
Then there's the one coming up with the tour over in Shenandoah.
Yep, that's Friday. That's the
Friday.
I got all of the Hungry Canyons.
I'm gonna come over to that.
Oh, the weird tour?
Yeah.
That's Friday.
At the Elks, is that the Elks?
That's where the lunch is, yeah.
Right, and then we
So,
go see, I'm excited about that, so.
I'm not sure what time does that start for the tour?
I don't
At
know.
8:30?
I think so.
Yeah,
Have that
okay.
email.
I think that's what time.
All right.
email
I
you.
can forward that even if we don't have it.
No, I'm serving the meal, so I'll see you.
Well, I won't come then, if you're going.
Yeah.
I'll stand in the corner, I'll just wave at you. So,
Well, that's
You might-
coming up, let's see.
you go on the weird, you can go in a separate vehicle, as long as you're, it's
Yeah.
gonna be spread out.
Well, if we're not having.
What time,
discussion,
8:30 your meeting?
I need to
I
check
don't
for
know.
sure.
I don't know what time, because I don't know that part.
I think there'll be several people there.
Yeah.
People there.
Around 35 to 40, he's hoping. So
Okay.
that's where they bring in everybody from all over, all the counties.
Yeah.
Kind of come look and see what we did.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's,
Yes, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Then
Send
I'll
that to
go
Chuck.
if you're going, but
Send
send
that
it
to
to
Chuck.
me. if you would.
I would, okay. I think that's all I can think of right now.
Okay. Alan?
I'm just gonna say all my meetings were before the last one, so I haven't had anything new this last week. So, other than trying to catch up with some of the stuff coming through the government here. We did receive the money. It's in the bank, so.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now we can figure out a way to
I
spend
haven't
it.
touched it yet. There is a seminar or a webinar tomorrow. I'm going to be listening on the way to Omaha. I'll listen in on that. They're going to touch bases on some of the discussion with those the relief dollars. I don't know how much it's going to be. They're only allowing like 30 minutes, and then there's question and answers, and it looks like they've got about 10 minutes for that. So.
Is that the ISAC one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm still working on Windows. You know, I've talked to Taylor County, talked to Montgomery County, reached out, I've not got back at all put together, but Taylor counties aren't, they're maybe, I can't really say, they're maybe 10 years old or so. But it might be nice to go see some 10-year-old windows, see how they're stood up, you know. Now, I do know that they might be a lot smaller, I don't know the size of them, but I haven't over there yet, but they were way less money. 10 years ago, way less. And I don't know, maybe, I didn't ask if they were, all I know is that
Courthouse like ours, isn't it?
the auditor,
Yeah, I mean, it's,
I need to go look at them. The auditor, I'm gonna get my numbers wrong, but it was, I think $50,000 did the whole courthouse, really. But they might be vinyl, they might be smaller, I don't know. I'm gonna go look at
well,
it.
the courthouse is majestic, but it is smaller than ours.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go check that out, okay? See if they don't like them, don't like them.
And it might only be 2 stories instead of 3. I can't remember.
Yeah,
Good question.
I've been by it sometimes, I just can't remember.
I've got some other leads on Windows that I haven't got chased all the way down. Still working on that. Trying to find the best deal we can get. So, okay.
Well, I forgot last week, 2 weeks ago tomorrow, I attended that broadband meeting sponsored by the Farmers Telephone. And there were supervisors from Montgomery, Adams, Taylor, and Page counties. And that's kind of where Kevin Cabbage and his group wants to roll out broadband fiber. And it was kind of an introductory meeting, and he spent some time, Kevin, spent some time showing how their network was built and how it's redundant and how it will be able to grow as technology grows. He talked about the millions and millions of dollars that are being infused, but he kind of put that in perspective about the millions and millions of dollars it takes to do all this. Basically, he says that they have a model where they need a 40% cost share to make this work. So in rural households, they believe that the cost to connect is about $5,000 per household. There are 1,955 households that they're targeting in Page County. So you take that 5,000, you got a pot full of money, but they need 40% to make that happen. So he has offered to come to our board and talk. I think his next step is to talk to the cities. You know, really, I expressed to him that we're in a tough spot on infrastructure. I said, now, if it comes down where we can't spend it on anything but broadband, I just should give it to you or somebody like you and send it back. But we're in a tough spot because you look at really the cities in Page County, with the exception of Clarinda, have already found a solution.
Yeah.
And so how do we support just Clarinda without the other entities that have already made that provision? So I don't know. At some point, I think they're going to be talking to the city of Clarinda, trying to tap into some of their resources, which, but their original rural plan wouldn't include Clarinda. It would be basically west of the Stanton Road over to where Swift ends, and then the northeastern part of the county where it does
It's only $4 million. It's only $4 million.
Yeah, I know. So, but that was interesting. And then let's see, our mental health meeting, Monday. You know, the legislation that's passed, it goes into effect July 1. There's some uncertainty. The talk out of Des Moines has changed. We were under, and our CEO is under the impression that we could always lower the levy, but we couldn't raise it. But now the Department of Management is telling us that we cannot lower it beyond $21.14. Our rate that we pass is $23, so it will go down a little bit. But because of the fund balance that we have and the fact that the region's been run very efficiently, we have more money than most regions. And so we're forced to spend it down, and we would like to reduce the levy to like $9 this year, but we're waiting on DOM approval. So I don't know where that'll line up, but there is going to be part of the spend down will be to, in our planning process, there's been plans to create an ACT team, and an ACT team is basically a remote mental health team that has a location that they work from and they spread out into their market area. And this ACT team is pretty expensive to start up, but I think we're committing over the next year and a half about $1.1 million. The good news for us is that there's an ACT team currently in Council Bluffs. They plan on making a remote location in Page County and one up in Monona County. And we'll be able to charge rental space for that office space. So I let Melissa know that, let's take a look at what we have in the annex and see what we could potentially carve out. And we currently, as you may or may not know, Jacob, we do have an employee on our payroll who we get reimbursed for currently from the mental health disability. Chris is on our payroll, and we probably should get her some office space. I'm not sure if July 1 we can start charging for it or not, but we're trying to figure that out. And then let's see, last Tuesday had a human services meeting. It was the first time since March that they've met in person. And there was a fair turnout. Some were still on Zoom, but most of them were there in person. And then let's see, the Zion meeting, what was that? I don't think I reported out on the Zion meeting. Zion, of course, taking over the Turning Point crisis stabilization here. They've got a 6-month agreement to keep it right where it's at because the labor force is primarily in Taylor County. And then today, Wellness Committee, and the Wellness Committee in the interim has 2 co-chair, Connie Rogers and Ann Iverson. They're doing a great job, but they were working on some ideas, but just some numbers that I think are important that we need to push out. This year for Page County to qualify for a 5% discount, we have to, each insured employee has to complete the online questionnaire, right? And then their assessment. And we've already earned our point there, which is good. We have 82% completion. But the other one, the real big one, is to get that physical and the fax form. And currently we only have 24%. This has to be done by October 31st, or we're going to lose 4% of our incentive. And so there's going to be some education pushed out over the next few months to encourage people to do that. Also talking about as an incentive to have a blood draw November and December at the 2 hospitals for employees that want that. It's kind of a nice thing for employees that are monitoring diabetes or other chronic health conditions. So that was that. But the thing that is important is that the messaging will be for our employees. They can choose not to do the online or the fax form, but if they don't complete both of those, then when we roll around, they will pay 5% premium. So, and that equates to real dollars. If you're on a single plan, and currently as an employee, you pay nothing. Yeah. But if you opt to not participate, it's going to cost you $488 next year. And if you're on a family plan and you choose not to participate, it's going to cost you $1,100 out of your pocket. So it's important that people do that. And plus important, it's a kind of a negative snowball, because if we don't get that 5%, then our rates go up. So these numbers are really under what the actual number would be. All right, but that was all I had. All right. Thanks for putting that on the board communication. Maybe we won't forget it. We did have on the minutes A request from Eric Klein to include the legal description
Of the property.
that we dealt with last week.
Makes sense.
If there are no other changes, I'd like a motion to approve the minutes with that adjustment.
Also move.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Thank you. So that, those official minutes will be emailed out to Eric Klein in the morning. And we've got some bills.
Yes. I'll make a motion, we don't pay them.
You make a motion not to pay them? Okay. I think maybe we got the bills. All right.
We don't have any bills.
Oh, we don't have any bills?
I make a motion, we pay them all.
Oh. Oh, okay.
Other stuff.
Other stuff. All right. Do we have other? Oh, just me on these? Okay. So a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.